Season 3, episode 32 of the Cup of Mets podcast. And it's actually the season finale as well, as the New York Mets have finally fallen. They lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers last night, falling in the NLCS. Obviously, more of a somber tune today, but I think reflectively speaking, what a season, what a year it was. Matt, Rob, how we doing, boys?
Doing good. I mean, not that good.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
Mets lost, but there's a lot to be like proud about with this team. The way that they fought through adversity through the year. The way that they made it to the NLCS when nobody, not even me, not even you, maybe Rob. He was the most he was the most cheering the entire year in terms of
Yeah.
what the Mets were gonna do. But
Mhm.
they did something. This right up there with 2015 for me personally, and in my favorite years of Mets teams and stuff like that. Not the end result that we all wanted, but there's still a lot to be proud about. A lot of money coming off the books, a lot of opportunities for young prospects coming up. I think that this realistically is the beginning for the Mets, and this should be like the standard. I think that in terms of some players that we had question marks about coming into the season, like Mark Vientos. Those question marks are gone, and we have a real star in Mark Vientos. So I'm very proud of this team. I'm proud to be a Mets fan, and like I said, I think it's only up from here.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, again, a lot to look forward to, but not the result we wanted. But I just love how baseball, again, 11 games under. Um, you guys were calling for sell, 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 and just to turn it around and just to be the best team in the MLB in this second half. Very fun summer, a lot of good memories. I would also, again, 2024, we wanted the I wanted the World Series. I did. I wanted at least an appearance, but at the end of the day, this team, like Maddie said, very proud of them and, on to next year.
Robbie, coming off of what you just said, when we were saying sell, 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 I went back and
Yeah.
looked today on our
Mhm.
Instagram page and I see a photo here. It's like a transparent photo of Edwin Diaz pitching, and the Mets were facing the Giants, and we made a graphic and it said sell, sell, sell on May 26th. So
Yeah.
yes, you were absolutely the most optimistic of the three of us. And yeah, I mean, you both said it. You both put it in a really good way. This group did not belong where they were, right? And to take the best team in the major leagues to a game 6 of the National League Championship Series is a testament. And not only is it a testament, but they seemingly let, for instance, they let a lot of opportunities slip away yesterday, right? And we'll touch upon that. But there were a couple of games that they could have made more interesting, and they really could have made for potentially even a game 7, right? But the Mets, they really played well. But ultimately, it kind of seemed like things spiraled out of control after the last time we recorded. The Mets had split the two games in Los Angeles, went home, and then they wound up losing 8-0 and then 10-2. So they were outscored by a combined 16 runs. What what did you see? What did you guys notice? I mean, obviously the starting pitching kind of killed us, and that was the linchpin for us all season long. The offense came alive for the Mets throughout the year, but
Mhm.
realistically speaking, we got to where we were because of Severino and Minaya coming out of nowhere, David Peterson, and they all kind of fell apart there. Kind of ran out of gas. It seems like
Exactly.
once they went back home.
Yeah. I mean, again, you got to give credit where credit's due. The Dodgers are a very good, disciplined ball club. They weren't really chasing much out of the zone, regardless of who was pitching for the Mets. But I think on one side, now that I say pitching, I think that side, the trouble was the issue, I should say, was the walks. And, Fox really highlighted that throughout the whole series, that Mets pitching was walking a lot of guys, which led to, Dodgers playing small ball in the beginning of the series, and then, their big guns just cashing in when they needed them most. So I give the Dodgers credit for just being disciplined, not chasing a lot of pitches out of the zone, which the Mets starting pitching and pitching alone has found a lot of success in doing, getting guys to chase, and the Dodgers didn't do that, so which led to a lot of walks. So, I think on that end, that's where the Mets kind of not spiraled out of control, but it kind of gas kind of ran out of the tank. Ian, in that aspect.
I mean, they were mentioning last night, I think, that it was Sean Manaea's 36th
Yep,
start
I
of the
heard that.
season.
And then once John Schmaltz was talking about that, I was like, tonight's the night he's gonna implode.
Yeah, and he was
And I was like, these guys always jinx it when they say that. And I was like, what? I was like, there, he doesn't have it. After watching the first thing, I was like, he does not have it tonight.
and being a
Um,
Mets fan, and being a Mets fan, someone that's not supposed to like John Smoltz, I actually like listening to John Smoltz, but
Yeah.
I
yeah,
don't.
I completely agree. Once he kind of said that, things went down the tubes, but they were emphasizing the entirety of the time. Even SNY was. It's going to come down to whose rotation goes further in games, whose rotation is more sustainable throughout the course of the series. And despite the Dodgers going with two bullpen games, one of which the Mets won, they weren't able to capitalize. And Rob, I think that you said it best. Obviously Manaea, Peterson, Quintana, Severino, they all had really, really productive seasons. But at the end of the day, outside of Manaea, who really did not walk batters towards the end of the year, they were erratic for the entirety of the postseason, even when they were winning. You can look at the first game at home when the Dodgers went up 2-1. Severino walked four batters in 4 2/3. The following day, when the Mets lost 10-2, Jose Quintana went 3 1/3 and walked four batters. So it was a theme. And not only was it the fact that the Mets were walking guys, but every time they walked a batter, it seemed like that guy came around to score.
Yeah.
But you have to
No,
think it's
exactly.
also they're like you said, they're completely out of gas. These guys are at their maximum innings in probably years, which in terms of Minaya and Severino, they were out of gas. It was like they 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 pitched so much this year and they never I don't think either of them missed a start.
No.
If I, so they they were just gassed. So what were you gonna say,
Yeah.
Rob?
No, no, yeah, and again, I'll emphasize it again. Give credit when credit's where credit's supposed to be given. Because the Dodgers they were very disciplined throughout some of these at bats. But on the other end of the playing field, I would say the Mets also didn't really hit well with runners in scoring position, which was a red flag for Ian and Matt, and for you guys. Um, during our stretch in the second half, trying to clinch a playoff spot. But yeah, the Mets' true colors really kind of shown this series, and again, even yesterday when the Mets were kind of trailing and they had opportunities, they had the bases loaded a couple innings, they had a leadoff single and then a couple walks here and there, and they just couldn't kind of cash in. At one point, I think we were like 1 for 11 or 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position yesterday, and that's trailing by 3 runs. So again, I just think the true colors just came out this championship series, and unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end at one point.
Yes. The clock struck midnight on the 2024 New York Mets last night. And yeah, before I piggyback off of the offensive, figure that you just pointed out with runners in scoring position, the last thing on the pitching is that, as you mentioned with the Dodgers, they don't chase. And that was a big contrast to even the Phillies, right? Sean Manaea, he looked really good in game 2 when he pitched. He ran out of gas towards the sixth inning, right? When the Mets put him back out there. When you look at the approach of the Phillies and the Dodgers, there's just one more team that was more disciplined than the other. And I think that when I look at, and we'll touch upon just really briefly towards the end of this episode, like what's to come this winter, what we, just whatever. But bottom line here, something that I want the Mets to work on is I want them to work on a better approach, right? So that kind of it's a two-prong thing there. I'm talking about the fact that our starters were nibbling at the zone all year, and that made them so effective. But in offense, like the Dodgers were able to withhold from chasing, which made it tough on our pitchers. And then on the flip side, when you see our offense stranding runners left and right, striking out and flailing at sliders and sweepers that are away and 10 feet off the plate, it's something that, yes, I know we have a couple power hitters in our lineup, guys that are all or nothing guys, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, I want to see a better approach at the plate. And I think you saw a prime example of what the Mets should be aiming for in the Los Angeles Dodgers last night.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And
Absolutely.
and the funniest thing is, I say all that, and before we talk about the offense, as you were pointing out, Rob, the funniest thing is 2 nights ago they didn't strike out once, or in game five they didn't strike out once, and I'm like this team of Mets, they're incredible. They yeah, they're 2024 full of magic, this, that, and the third, but they strike out 6 to 7 times a game. Most of the time, regular season and postseason. And then they go up, they score 12 runs, they don't strike out once. Wild. But that was actually my biggest takeaway from the game five win that salvaged their season. But going back to the offense, though, last night they were 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position, left 13 runners on base. And in just their losses, game three at home, they were 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position, left 8 men on base. And in their 10-2 loss, which made the series 3-1, the Mets were 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position and left 10 men on base. That's the type of stuff that absolutely grinds your gears. You could tip your cap, as you said before, Rob, and that's what I did last night. It was kind of like, listen, Dodgers had our card. They were the better team. But when you look at those opportunities that are missed, and then you
Yeah.
see the Dodgers scrape out runs here and there and then capitalize when they're supposed to, you're like, shit, man, how many times in this series did the Mets have bases loaded, one out, or runners on the corner, one out, and they couldn't even push across a run?
Exactly. They did not capitalize. And I mean, you just said like I think the Mets like matched up better with the Dodgers than the Padres, like in my opinion. But it's just it
No, yeah.
realistically is like I I think that it was a side of poor managerial decisions. Winker should have been in every game. JD Martinez should not have seen the field. Honestly,
So
I
we
stand
obviously
on
have
the
to talk about
hill.
that. Yeah.
I would not have had McNeil in there really either. Considering how long he was out, I would have honestly have rather have played Acuna than McNeil, considering that he was playing September ball with us. But honestly, it
Yeah, I
overall
think
it's
yeah,
like
I
I
think
thought
also
we
too.
matched up well with them and that
Yeah.
their pitching was not that good. We could have beaten them like you guys have been saying, they had bases loaded how many times?
Mhm.
You can't go 0 for 11 like and do that shit. Like you can't beat the Long Island Ducks. I'm
No, yeah,
sorry.
that's that. No, that just separates the good teams from the great teams. But I think also too, you guys, forgot to mention, but and not to make excuses here, but Brandon Nimmo also had plantar fasciitis.
Yep.
He wasn't 100% healthy.
I don't
Um,
even
and
he was a
and unfortunately,
liability. He
no,
should not have
exactly. But
been
but it
batting
was but it
second.
was my point is it was clear and evident that he wasn't the same. He wasn't the same player, is what I'm trying to say, and that's a big blow because he's a crucial part of your team.
Exactly.
And then obviously the overtaxed bullpen, along with pitching a Kodai Senga who hasn't pitched all year.
Yeah.
Just a lot of question marks there too. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Right. Yeah.
it
There's
makes you
so,
really think, honestly. And it's
like, what could have been.
like
Yeah.
why would you throw him out there for
I
game
think
one of
I
the
think I think
CS?
the
Like,
biggest one though is the Jesse Winker.
yeah.
Why he didn't play game three or game four. That just not even a pinch hit either. Like,
Do you guys agree with throwing him out there for game
No,
one?
no. Oh, Kodai? No, no. But
Senga.
here,
well, who else is gonna go out there?
but here's the thing. This was my issue, Matt, and we spoke about. You know what? Hold on, time out. I want to talk about quickly the Jesse Winker, JD Martinez thing before we hop back into pitching because it seems like we're going all over the place with this series, which is totally okay because the series was all over the place. But the JD Martinez, Jesse Winker thing was massive. Jesse Winker had been raking in the postseason, whether it was against Milwaukee, whether it was against Philly, and then the Mets play their first 2 games in LA. They split. They may have shit the bed in game one, but Jesse Winker was one of the only guys that got a knock and got on base via a walk. Then he comes up clutch in game two when the Mets win. And then he rides the bench game 3 and 4 against right-handed pitchers, nonetheless. And JD Martinez, who has been swinging at everything and anything and not making contact, not hitting the ball with any authority, gets put into the middle of the lineup in RBI holes. I that's the type of thing that, again, I tip my cap. But when you look at the lack of production with runners in scoring position, when you look at head scratching managerial move in, putting JD Martinez in for Winker. And I bet that wasn't just Carlos Mendoza. I guarantee you that came from up top as well.
Yeah,
And I don't think it was justifying the
absolutely.
signing or anything like that. But you just can't have JD Martinez up there in those moments because he was struggling mightily, mightily. And he
Yeah,
had been. We saw it for the entirety of September. He went 0 for 32 at one point,
yeah.
right?
That
He didn't have like, the worst postseason in the world compared to some of the other players. Granted, he didn't get all the ABs in the world, but there's a reason why he didn't. And it's because he was struggling so bad. And that was so mind-boggling to me. And it pissed me off so much. And that's one of the reasons why Carlos Mendoza won't get an A for his first year as manager in my grade book. He's in the high B's, don't worry. But that really made me question some of the decision making.
Yeah. And like I tweeted, I said that Dave Roberts outmanaged Carlos Mendoza. And that's honestly the truth.
I
And
think I
I
said
mean,
that to you last night.
I'm not gonna shame Carlos Mendoza. He's gonna win manager of the year. Dave Roberts is a great manager, but like that when it comes to the end of the day, that's what happened. He got outmanaged. He tried to get smart by he thought that Kadai Senga was gonna go and pitch 7 innings and do magic.
Well,
He
I don't see here. I'll clap back on that. My issue with the Kodai Senga starting game one was just the unknown part of what you were going to get. He was okay game one of the NLDS against the Phillies, right? He gave up the leadoff home run to Schwarber, I think walked one other batter, but otherwise he was fine. The issue with that move for me was something that we spoke about last episode, Matt, was that you saw the implosion of Kodai, and then the fact that Kodai was on the roster left the Mets one arm short. And that's what bothered me because then you went ahead and you had David Peterson start and essentially kind of was a bullpen game. Severino shit the bed, Minaya shit the bed, Quintana shit the bed, but then you still didn't have that one other arm. And so not only did Kodai implode early and tax the bullpen early, game one, but then also the Mets didn't really have another, I'm not going to say back end option. The bullpen was shaky throughout the entirety of the postseason. So they could have had another Adam Ottavino, but I feel like the Mets should have leveraged Tyler McGill more, and that's someone that we didn't see throughout the NLCS.
there's a lot of people I feel like we didn't see. Like a
Really?
lot of
I feel
people
like
on the like Terens we didn't see.
that's okay.
Yeah, I think Alvarez played pretty well.
Yeah, he finally got his head out of his ass. He was swinging for the fences every pitch. Those at bats seemed so long. He was going over 3, over 4, 3 Ks, but he turned it around in game five. It was needed, and last night he looked pretty good as well. But
Yeah,
overall, I
That's the
think
playoffs, you're not gonna you gotta see
I'm
your best.
I'm confident though in our future because we have a nice young group of talent who's at the top, AAA, and guys like Brandon Sproat, Jet Williams, Drew Gilbert. If you think about it, they only signed Harrison Bader to a 1 year deal. So if you're smart, and everything goes well, spring training, and probably be smart to plug center field with Drew Gilbert. Um, you have to mix youth with going out and getting buying talent, pretty much. Um, but I think the Mets have it. Their farm system is looking pretty good. So we realistically have to see, and things obviously will start heating up when the World Series concludes. But the Mets definitely they're gonna have some holes.
definitely have some work to do, and it'll be plugged via free agency, via minor league promotions, and via trades, I personally think. But all in all, you both said this, I think, from the outset. This was the beginning for the New York Mets. This was supposed to be a transition season, and the Mets pushed it to game six of the National League Championship Series against the best team in baseball. So I think, for me, '06 and 15 always have a special place in my heart. And I'm not going to say the 24 Mets take precedent over them, but in 2006, the Mets ran ship the entirety of the season. We were just waiting for them to clinch. 2015, there was that stretch in July and August that was incredible. But then realistically, September, we were just waiting for them to clinch as well because the Nationals imploded. 2022, they ran ship as well, but then it was kind of a reverse route. We went into the playoffs with less momentum because of losing the division. This season will go down in my books as number one or number two Met teams that I have rooted for personally. The fight, the grit, the emotion. You saw guys crying when they won the NLDS. You saw Sean Manaea crying last night in the post game. The
Yeah.
humility throughout the group. Francisco
Mhm.
Lindor establishing himself as the captain of the team, seeing guys develop like a Mark Vientos, seeing guys come out of nowhere like Jose Iglesias throwing a concert in the middle of the stadium, throwing up a rally cry, all these different weird rally cries from Grimace to
Yeah.
OMG to the Rizzler coming to the game the other
Oh,
day, and
fucking
Riley Pimp.
Seymour Wiener. Like,
the
Riley
playoff
Pimp.
pumpkin. Like, what a fucking weird
Yeah.
year.
it
Yeah.
was a weird year. And you want to know what I woke up thinking this morning? I was like, are they going to push Grimace next year? Like, is that going to be a thing? Like,
I don't
is
know that.
McDonald's going to continue like with this? And is that going to be like a thing still? Because you want to know what also pissed me off? Seeing like ESPN put out that shit like fucking Mets got grimaced. And it was the Grimace throws that pitch and it was Otani ripping it to right field. I was like, why does everybody hate the Mets, man? What, because their owner's worth 16 billion?
Yeah.
Probably.
Like, honestly, he should just go out and just be like, I have fuck you money, so I'm gonna say fuck you. Like, and just
That's that's what he should do in a smart way. Okay. In
yeah,
a
for
smart
sure.
way. Let's not set ourselves back, right? Let's make smart investments moving forward. But it just what a season. I really can't even describe it. Rob, where does this rank for you?
No, I mean, you said it best. 06 and 15, they have special places in my heart as well. I really admire 2006 just because that was like the first year I was like starting to get into baseball like that, like following stats, like getting the paper every morning, you know what I mean, checking the standings, little things like that I'll always remember. But along with like a stacked lineup. But nah, 2024, you said it best, man. Just like a bunch of shit going on in the course of April through September, like all these rally cries and just magical moments. And then not only that, just like every time we got knocked down, they got back up. Like I can remember like blowing the 4-run lead against the Marlins, starting off 0-5, having no one in the stands, like 11 games under when Corbin Carroll hit the grand slam, like we saw a lot of downs, a lot of downs in the beginning, and then they just rally cried with everything going on with Grimace and Iggy Azalea dog and fucking Seymour Wiener, but just a lot of good memories with the season, man, and just people that you wouldn't even like consider like being like, oh shit, like he was a big part of the Mets team, like Jose Iglesias. Like, was he even on your roster to start the season? Like, no, he wasn't.
No,
Like,
he missed out by Zach Short.
yeah, and I remember people bitching about Luis Severino and and fucking and trading for Tyrone Taylor and just it's just it's
That's
it's funny how it all played out.
and that's another thing. You mentioned these external pieces that they brought in. The Mets had to bring in a bunch. It was considered a transition season. They had to plug
Uh,
holes. And Severino's the guy that's holding the OMG sign. He's in every photo. The guy is a stand-up character, right? Became integral with the fans, tipping the cap. Mania had a real connection with them as well.
you saw like a little a little like evolving of the David Peterson,
Yeah.
like
Oh my gosh. What
He
a
had a
yeah,
leap
hell
like
he
of a
took.
year.
yeah,
Yeah, knock on wood, it stays the same. Arm and hip,
yeah.
man.
No, because dude, we've been waiting for that, like David Peterson. I've honestly been a fan since we drafted him, but and we've been waiting for a year like that or just performances like that. Like every time he got the ball this year, I was like, yeah, we're winning, like, and it was just nice. It was just nice to have that confidence and that, that moving of the torch that you for to say, like just having that culture change.
Right.
But
And Severino also said, I think, I'm not sure if he said it last night or the other day, but he said that this group reminded him of the 2017 New York Yankees, the team that
yeah,
no one expected to be there, had certain pieces, made it to the ALCS, lost, but then continued on the trajectory. Now, of course, we're Met fans, so we want to be in the playoffs every year. Hopefully, we
Yeah,
don't lose in the NLCS every year like the Yankees tend to do or did before this season, right? But
yeah,
all in all, I just think that this was such an incredible year. And I think in our lifetimes, at least, right? Our folks had 69 and 73, the miracle Mets. 1984, the Mets came out of nowhere. 1999, the Mets came out of nowhere, but we were 2, 3, and 4 respectively, right? So we don't remember that. 2000, they were in a much better place and they were able to make it to the World Series. But this was the first season, I think, that how many times between 2009 through literally 2020, 2021, how many times do we see the Mets below 11 games under 500 in May, June, or July, and they just fold and they end with a 70 and 92 record? This was the first year that the Mets actually completely turned the corner and went on a run, a magical run. And again, one that I think is going to set them up big time moving forward. What do you guys, for me, I think was moving Lindor to the leadoff spot. I think that that was a major catalyst for the season to change courses. I also think Sean Manaea lowering his arm angle to give the Mets kind of like a bona fide ace while Kodai was out, I think was really big and key when I just think back on turning points throughout the season. When you guys look back on the year that was, there were so many from the rally cries, as we mentioned, to moments. What's the moment or the thing that stuck out to you that kind of flipped the switch for you?
I'd probably have to say when Lindor held the team only meeting. And things I feel like after that they realized like they were not in a good spot and that they were better than their record showed. After that, I believe they went on a crazy the best record in baseball. So I would have to say when Lindor did what he did as who should be the captain of this team, slapped the C on him.
Yes, sir.
He did what he thought was necessary and look at what the results. So that's what I think the turning point was personally.
yeah. No, I mean, you said it best, and there was a lot of turning points. But the one that sticks out for me is when they called up Jose Iglesias.
Oh,
You
Oh
know,
my
yeah, yeah.
God.
I mean,
yeah.
one of many rally cries for the New York Mets in 2024. They took it and ran with it. His song got a lot more views, obviously.
Oh, dude, top
But
of the Latin billboards. You
yeah,
kidding?
no, yeah, but overall, I think it was just a good energy boost, not only for the Mets, but for for the fan base and
Absolutely.
obviously, like Maddie said, obviously the results showed. So
Also, I mean, regardless how you feel about the guy, he got a collab with Pitbull. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had like 2.4 WAR this season, so that's pretty good for a 35-year-old second baseman slash shortstop slash journeyman. But he definitely earned himself some money next year. That's for
Without a
sure.
doubt.
Whoever
Without a
signs
doubt.
him he's not gonna be on a minor league deal. He could possibly
yeah,
get
yeah,
a multi-year deal out of what
And
he
good
did
and
this
good
year.
for him because he was out of the league last year.
yeah,
Exactly. So I'm happy for what this team has
definitely.
accomplished. Some guys like personally, Mania will get more money. 100% he's opting out.
Yep.
I'd say
Uh
Seven, gets a nice deal.
Sebi.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm sure Sevy's gonna get another deal. I'm sure the Mets will slap the qualifying offer on Alonso, Mania. Curious if they'll slap it on Sevy.
Yeah. All right. All right. So before we dive into that and just talk about, what's to come for the Mets, what's to come for the podcast and our platform moving forward, give me your grade. I'm going to say B plus, Carlos Mendoza. What's year one grade, Robbie?
A minus.
Maddie?
B plus.
Yeah. The one issue, I just think he kind of stuck with guys a little bit too long. I thought that he had a really good mentality in the beginning of the year. If you didn't hit, you're not playing. If you're not pitching well, you're not pitching. I feel like we kind of saw that go away in the postseason and towards the end of the stretch when JD Martinez was getting ABs and this, that, and the third. But overall, Carlos Mendoza, job well done, first manager in Mets history to make the postseason in year one. So only good things to come, and all the players love playing for him. And you could just see that he really embraced the fan base and the
Did Buck
fans.
not make the playoffs year one?
Oh, what a
No, he
jackass!
did. Yeah, he did. So second man.
All right, all right. So first manager to make it past winning one freaking game. I don't know.
Yeah, I
All right,
guess.
so I messed that up. I'm not even going to edit that out. So
All
whatever, screw it. All right, so we were talking before about potential free agents to come for the New York Mets.
right.
The Mets definitely have some work to do. While the future is looking very bright, the Mets have quite a few players hitting the free agent market. Pete Alonso, Jose Quintana, Luis Severino, JD Martinez, Harrison Bader, Jesse Winker, Jose Iglesias, Brooks Raley, forgot about him, Adam Ottavino, Ryan Stanek, Drew Smith, and options $13.5 million player option for Sean Manaea. We just said it. He's most likely going to opt out. I mean,
Not most likely. It's
he
a
100% is
100%.
opting out. And then Phil Maton, who the Mets actually hold the $7.75 million club option on Maton. So obviously that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, nearly half of our roster. So when you kind of look at those players, what do you guys think is the main area, not only within these guys, but just free agency trades in general? Where do you think the Mets need to shift their emphasis on? What do you think they need to focus on?
I think it's hard not to argue that starting pitching is probably our number one need, considering how it
This
kind of
is
just we saw like we ran out of gas. Um, there's some starting pitchers. I'd probably go for Burns, to be honest with you.
Mm,
Uh, but there are some other guys like Max Fried. I'm not sure if I would sign him, but realistically, I would say starting pitching market. Where we're probably going to be heavy on. We definitely need. You want to know who is? I saw him. That's where somebody was like Anthony Santander. I was like, that's an interesting possibility.
yeah,
He can hit.
Anthony Santander is definitely an interesting one. Switch hitter, had a great year this year. I just had I have a feeling, and I was looking at his numbers the other day. I just have a feeling he's somebody that would come to Queens and just suck.
yeah. Jay
Yeah.
Bruce.
Jason Bay,
Yeah.
and the list kind of goes on.
Nah, but I'm on the I'm kind of on the agreement with Maddie. I think starting pitching is obviously the first priority. I'm not sure who's out there, but one name is Corbin Burns. I know that for a fact. I maybe would give him the bag. I'm not sure. Can we get past the World Series before we start making predictions? But yeah, I would go starting pitching. And if the Mets aren't going to go that route, then they definitely got to shore up the bullpen. A lot of those names that you mentioned, Boz, were relief pitchers for the Mets. And I would, and again, if we want to do this keep game, I would keep Ryan Stanek. I'd see what it'd take to bring him back. I
I do
love
want to play
Phil
the keep
Maton.
game. I do
Phil
want to play the keep
Maton
game. Yeah.
would needs to learn Japanese. Um, what's it called?
Nah. I gotta be honest.
Brooks Raley. I
I
would see
think
if he would
they're.
come back on a team friendly deal just
I
because of the injury he's
think
coming
they'll
off of.
probably keep what's his name,
I
Maton. What do I
think
feel
they're
like this?
I think they're going to extend that 7.75 club option, and I think that they should. I think that he was
Yeah,
somebody that just ran out of gas early. I
yeah,
mean, late. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, he is
uh,
good though. But Maton,
yeah,
when he's good, he's good. But
yeah. So I do.
overused out the woo-ha.
Oh my gosh, dude, he was
Yeah,
pitching every single day
uh,
down the stretch of the season as well as into the postseason. But
yeah,
but not only the pitchers, right? Out of those guys that I mentioned, what let's put Alonso aside because I think we can all agree that if the Mets miss out on, yes, Juan Soto, and we're going to talk about this all when we dive into the hot stove in a couple of weeks, I think we are all in agreement that the Mets should go full throttle for Juan Soto. If they don't sign Juan Soto, there are definitely a couple of big bats, one of them being Pete Alonso. So we're going to push him off to the side here. Okay. But out of some of the starting pitchers, a Jesse Winker, some of the relievers, Rob, you just mentioned Stanek extending Maton, Rayleigh potentially, as he works back from Tommy John. Who do you think is most likely to return to the Mets? And it could be multiple players. For me personally, I think the Mets should and will end up agreeing to a deal with Jesse Winker. I think that they need a left-handed bat in the outfield. And given the fact that you only go into next year with Marte, Nimmo, and Tyrone Taylor under contract, I think Jesse Winker would make a lot of sense. He could go on and off with Starling Marte and Wright. Also could be a little bit of a DH when need be and also spare Marte. He could be a DH at some point. I love the pitching options that you guys bring up in a Rayleigh, in a Stanek, in a Drew Smith potentially. Let him rehab. I think Adam Ottavino is going to call it quits. And if I were a betting man, I would say that out of the starting pitchers, I'm personally, and again, we'll dive into this in the hot soap. I'm shying away from a Corbin Burns, and I'll give my reasoning later on in the winter. But I think that the Mets should go after Luis Severino. I think Severino is more likely to return to the Mets than Sean Manaea.
Damn, I want Shamanai back. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Me too.
Yeah.
So
I
so
would rather go Sean Mania, let Sevy walk.
I just think that even though Severino's younger, I think that Manaea is going to get more money based off the fact that he may have found a second level.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any other integral pieces of those players that you think that the Mets should look to bring back?
At a good
Not
deal, I would bring back Iglesias for a bench spot, but I mean,
so I was gonna say it's kind of
then
tough
he's
to look at
yeah,
that happening because with the surplus of young talent in the infield
yeah,
that's coming up.
exactly. You want Acuna playing,
And
like you
Yeah,
want.
we also got a guy named Ronnie Mauricio coming back from injury,
yep, yep. And who knows what they do with Jeff McNeil?
as well as Pete Alonso. So there's definitely
Trade McNeil's as.
Nah,
yeah,
listen, man. I mean, in a perfect world, I would love Iglesias back just because of the leadership him being
camaraderie.
like camaraderie type. But unfortunately, I think the Mets did the right thing by putting him back on his feet. Granted, he played his ass off, so I'm not going to take all that away from him. But I think the Mets did their jobs by giving him another shot, and like another story. We put on his song, and he played a lot in the postseason, so hopefully he gets another major league deal.
And I absolutely think he will. This was definitely such a fun group of players to root for, from Pete Alonso sometimes to Francisco Lindor to bringing in Jesse Winker and his electrifying moments, Ryan Stanek and his, and so on. I mean, I could go on and on. Even a Harrison Bader, someone that I just listed him off before. We didn't mention his name one other time. He had his moments as well. He embraced being a Met. He was great to watch. Even a Jose Quintana. How many times did we call for him to be booted from the rotation? And what a turnaround he had. I wouldn't be
Yep.
surprised. Granted, given the starting pitching market, I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets give him a 1 year deal. Because for me, I don't want to give it away, but for me, I'm not a big time believer in investing in starting pitching long term. I'm someone who I like the idea of plugging holes, a Severino, a Quintana, this, that, but I want to see, and we mentioned it so many times this season, the development at the AAA level. I want to see a Jonah Tong, a Brandon Sprout, a Blade Tidwell take that next leap forward and be able to come to the big leagues and make a big impact so the Mets don't have all their money tied to their rotation. Because if they go ahead and they give Corbin Burns $30 million, who I don't think, not saying that he doesn't deserve it. He does deserve it, but his strikeout numbers are declining. His chase percentage is declining. So, and his velo has declined a little bit. So, to me, giving him a 6, 7 year deal is a little bit scary. I would like to see internal development for the pitching, maybe spend on the offense. But again, we'll get there now. I'm just talking. As far as the Cup of Mets podcast goes, per usual, this is the capper on season 3. Crazy that it's been 3 full seasons, 22, 23, and 24. Boom, all done. We'll begin the hot stove season towards the end of November, potentially into the beginning of December. Definitely have a busy winter going on over the course of the next couple months. So again, we'll try to be to you guys at least once a week, if not more, maybe less. I don't know. But again, nonetheless, we will be back for season 4 come March and April. But it's been a hell of a year, boys. It's been loads of fun. I also want to go ahead and thank our sponsors in SeatGeek. Use code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off, as well as Smack and Sunflower Seeds. They just came out with a couple new flavors as well, I believe. And use code Ian05405 to get 10% off on that. Had a blast working with y'all. And we look
Absolutely.
forward to continuing that partnership. Boys, any final notes as we wrap up season 3 of the Cup of Mets podcast?
Nah, I can't believe it's all over. They exceeded expectations. We had a good year. We went to a bunch of fun games in September. Maybe we can spin up maybe a spring training weekend trip. That would be a great time. But aside from that, it's been awesome with you guys. Can't wait for the hot stove. Think the Mets are trending in the right direction. They have good management and great ownership. Love Steve and Alex Cohen. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's fucking go Mets.
It's not a goodbye. It's a I'll see you next time. You know.
There it is. There
I'm
it
gonna
is.
end on that. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, nah, yeah. Nothing but up from here, you know. Obviously, the 2024 New York Mets didn't end how we wanted it to, but it was still a hell of a ride. I enjoyed every moment of it and all the game. I'm glad I bought another 20 game plan for and especially during this season. So
I'm happy you did too.
on a personal note, but just you know, another bunch of memories to put in the memory book, and we move forward. As for the podcast, I'm very excited to where everything's headed, and you know, like Maddie said, it's been a pleasure working with you guys and talking Mets, and you know, like I said, it's not a goodbye. It's just I'll see you next time. So
Love
Yep.
that. Love
We got
that.
some exciting stuff for the off season.
Yeah,
So
we got some exciting things planned for the hot stove season, as well as some special guests from players to former players to analysts. We're going to bring them on, talk some New York Mets hot stove. And I just want to speak on behalf of both Matt and Rob as well. I think we can all agree that while we love talking Mets and tweeting about the Mets and posting about the Mets, we wouldn't do it without the continued support of all of our listeners, all of our followers, and all of our subscribers. So, again, thank you so much for listening and tuning in every fifth, sixth, seventh day, whatever it is. I know sometimes we're a little sporadic, but we got other jobs. We got to pay the bills. This isn't doing it yet, but um, yeah, it's been a pleasure. And for the final time, remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. As mentioned before, download that SeatGeek app, punching code Cup of Mets at first purchase. And last but not least, visit smackandsunflowerseeds.com, punching code Ian05405 to get 10% off. And this really is for the last time this season here in season 3. It's been a hell of a ride. For Matt DeSantis and Rob Venegas, I'm Ian Bosniak. Let's go Mets. We'll see you in a few weeks. Good night, everybody.